time. She's alive! Alive!
Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of
The Bride of
Alternate Ending.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union between horror movies and podcasts via the Bride of Alternate Ending podcast, a sideshow of alternate ending. I am your ghost and officiant for the evening, Brennan Klein, and with me, as always, is my co-ghost, Tim Brayton. Speak now or forever hold your peace, Tim.
I'm so glad you invited me to be part of this blessed event with you tonight.
We do need a witness to sign the document that we recorded a podcast.
Yes, indeed. The witnesses are all of you, beautiful people out there in podcast land.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And you are here listening to the third and final episode of our
Honeymoon Horror Quarter.
Yeah. Honeymoon horror / just like post-wedding. I forget the exact phrase that I had come up with because we kind of strayed from...
I think we called it Honeymoon Horror Films, and it took 3 tries, but we got one that is...
Yeah, we sure did.
...about a honeymoon in a way that significantly alters how the plot works.
Yeah, and I sure hoped it would do that because the movie Hatchet for the Honeymoon, not so much. But this movie, it's literally just called Honeymoon, and I'm like, if this doesn't have a honeymoon in it, so help me God. Yes, we are talking about Leigh Janiak's 2014 movie Honeymoon. I believe it was her directorial debut. Yes, it was. She co-wrote it with Phil Graziade, and I was hoping that was her husband, and it is not.
Amazing.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a husband and wife team write this, but no, she was apparently married to one of the Duffer Brothers, the Stranger Things guys, for quite a while. But no longer, perhaps, because something horrible happened out in the woods.
Could be.
But yes, so we were talking about 2014's Honeymoon. In brief, I will kind of sum up the plot. Newlyweds Bea and Paul, played by Rose Leslie and Harry Treadaway, they go to her family's cabin in the kind of remote Canadian wilderness. They have lots of sex, and then all of a sudden, at one point in the middle of the night, he discovers her naked in the middle of the woods staring into space, and after that point, things get weird. She doesn't quite seem the same. She's forgetting things. Is she the same person that he brought with him to the cabin? Is she the same person that he married? We'll have to find out, won't we?
We surely will. And key part of this, she has a line of 3 bumps on both of her inner thighs that she is calling bug bites and gets very hostile anytime he asks what the hell they are.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of weird things going on, and when he asks, she either ignores it or gets very hostile.
Yes.
That's kind of her methodology.
That is the plot.
That indeed is the plot.
That is the plot of the second and third thirds of the film. He asks a question and she yells at him.
Yeah.
Just like marriage, am I right, fellas?
But yes, so this was a first-time watch for both of us, right?
Yes, it was. I hadn't really heard of this film at all until you put it on the list. And I will be honest, when you put it on the list, I was like, well, that seems like not something I'll love particularly because it's a horror film from the 2010s, and they can be hit or miss. Spoiler alert, I'm glad we saw it. I'm in fact real glad we saw it.
I am so glad to hear you say that, because this is a movie that it was on my radar. I was listening to a lot of horror podcasts in the mid-2010s. This is something that I had heard of and I'd heard nice things about, but haven't really heard from very much since like 2015. So I didn't feel like it had a lot of staying power, and obviously Leigh Janiak went on to direct the Fear Street trilogy for Netflix, which is a very different thing.
A very different thing, and clearly was good for her career in that I'm sure she made a decent sum of money because Netflix just slops money around on things, but also feels like I hadn't I had not made the connection that it was the same person who directed these things, I would have been way less enthusiastic if I had known that. Because the Fear Streets are poor, in my opinion.
Yeah, they have their moments, but they, I believe, in my recollection, get worse as they go along, which is not what you want.
The third one, I think, is for sure the worst. I think we can bicker and argue over the first versus the second, but the third one is just a fucking trash barge.
Yeah, and it just never really gave me what I wanted from what I thought the first movie was setting up for us to receive, and it just kind of it went off the rails. Anyway, but like, you know, that's lots of Netflix interference, lots of R.L. Stine. Like, you're working with a lot of people. This is a much scrappier indie production.
Very, very scrappy film. Definitely one of those. We had a tiny crew. We went to a found location, and we have a cast of 4.
Oh yeah, cast of 4, and that's kind of what's cool about this kind of horror movie is that even though, mild spoiler alert, like there are special effects at a certain point, like in this type of horror movie, the star is the script, and the star is the premise and the actors delivering dialogue, and that can be very exciting if all of that is arranged in the right quantities, and I think for the most part it is here in Honeymoon.
Yeah, I'm going to just have a ton of very kind things to say about this movie, so I don't want to use them all up all at once, but I will definitely say the acting in this film is very critical to it working at all, and I think the acting is very hard to find any fault with at all. And I am a curmudgeon, so I found some fault, but it's a nitpick. It's not even a real fault.
Ooh, I wonder if your nitpick is the same as mine. What is yours?
So my nitpick, we should probably quickly sketch out what's who B and Paul are. So B is played by Rose Leslie, who I gather is a Game of Thrones person. I don't watch Game of Thrones, won't watch Game of Thrones, so I don't know that necessarily.
Yes, she is. I have seen exactly the first and final seasons of Game of Thrones and nothing in between, but she is in Game of Thrones, and that's what she's best known for.
And Paul, her husband, is played by Harry Treadaway, who I've actually seen in multiple things. He is in Fish Tank, an excellent film by Andrea Arnold. He is in Control, a film that I like quite a lot from Anton Corbijn. He is actually in Star Trek Picard, which I'm watching right now and finding it to be awful and him to be awful in it, but that's neither here nor there. Harry Treadaway is English. Rose Leslie is Scottish. The characters are New York Americans going to Canada. I don't think it matters that they're American. It kind of vaguely maybe sort of matters that she is. I don't think he needs to be American at all. And this is such a stupid thing. He looks English.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, that is actually what your nitpick was going to be.
Yeah, well, and also partially, like, I am very nitpicky about fake American accents, and there's slipped a couple times. Certainly at the beginning in their, like, wedding video. I thought this was a British movie.
No, it doesn't have a drop of British money in it. It's very American. But no, I bought her mostly. There are a couple points where, like, the brogue kind of slips through. He just looks like an Englishman.
No,
Like,
that's
he looks like Harry Styles, kind of. He looks like a very
Interesting.
emaciated, triangle-faced sort of Englishman. And it kind of bothered me the whole time.
Oh, yeah. No, so because I think Harry Treadaway is a very handsome man, but in such a specifically British way. And he also has the Britishest teeth.
Yes, definitely. And, like, I'm not saying I want to recast these people. I'm saying I want to just let them not be American. They live in New York. It's the great melting pot of the globe. They can be from anywhere.
Yeah.
And so why?
Yeah, it feels so unnecessary to saddle them with any of that baggage. But like you said, they do make it work kind of fundamentally for the most part, but there is kind of this nonstop cognitive dissonance with Harry Treadaway, where you're like, that's a British person, and then he speaks, and you're like, what the fuck is happening to my ears?
Exactly. And to be clear, I would concur with the very important point you made that Harry Treadaway is someone who I discovered I enjoy looking at in the amount of clothing he is routinely not wearing in this movie.
Oh, certainly. I mean, so I was actually, I didn't realize he was in this until I was like really sitting down to watch Honeymoon. And I got really excited because every time I see Harry Treadaway on IMDb, for whatever reason, like he every time he crosses my desk, I have the breath knocked out of me by his IMDb profile picture. And I'm like, I gotta find out what this guy's been in. And he's been in almost exactly nothing interesting.
Oh, sure. I can see needing to breathe into a paper bag for a second after
Yeah.
that.
Okay, great. I'm so glad. But there's just something really striking about the image, and it's like very high contrast too. There's just like it really sticks in my brain, and I'm like, finally I can encounter this person the way he was meant to be seen. First of all, number one, in a movie, and number two, naked a lot of the time. So that was
Yes.
good for me.
The two keys to cinema. Mm-hmm. That the people in it are pretty, and that they are in various states of undress.
Yes, and
I believe I have shared my grand theory of cinema before on this podcast.
and it's important. But yes, I mean, not to say that there is no full frontal nudity in this movie.
No.
I don't think there are. Like, I don't think we see Rose Leslie topless. I'm not trying to misrepresent this movie, but they're showing a lot of skin in various parts.
A lot of skin, but I think you're correct. I don't think we see nipple, and we definitely don't see ding dong.
Yeah, we do see some butt, and we do see like the very top of Harry Treadaway's bush, which kind of shocked me for like a modern American film.
Sure.
Although that does bring to mind 50 Shades of Grey, in that's exactly the angle of a man that they showed in that first movie. And the other thing that reminded me of 50 Shades of Grey in this movie is the fact that they waited until after their wedding to talk about whether or not they wanted kids. Which was upsetting to me for this couple. Maybe is not a flaw with the script because this couple is not perfect, but it was a viscerally unpleasant moment for me to witness on screen.
No, absolutely. The central to my reading of what this film is the way that it clearly, but not inorganically, makes us understand that they have not had that conversation, and implies that they have probably not had other conversations. I wouldn't say that are equally important, because that's the most important one, but my impression is absolutely that these are not people who had long heart-to-heart chats about specifically what they wanted out of life before they got married, and I think that is very important.
Yeah, that's very important, and I think you're right. And there are little things in that first act where they are having a nice honeymoon before things go really off the rails, where there's little hints of like there's some discord there, or there's some way that their worldviews are different that is causing friction.
Right, and you know, I will say my experience of watching this movie, because obviously I knew it was a horror movie because we have a horror podcast. Yeah, but the first third, it's almost exactly the first third. I think I timed it out and it was like minute 28, and the movie is it's like, is it 89? Does that sound right? 87.
That sounds, yeah.
Nice short. Anytime a running time of a horror movie is under 90 minutes, I want to meet the director and shake her hand and buy her a beer. That is the correct length of time for a movie. But no, so for that first third, there's like one thing that happens, which is they're asleep at night, and there's like a flash of light that is clearly not naturally occurring. Other than that, there's not really an indication until he wakes up and she's naked in the woods that something is happening that will put this in genre territory, really. And I had the very oh, go ahead.
Well, there's like they do encounter this kind of ex-flame of hers from junior high who now has a wife, and he's very creepy to her, but that's kind of like standard creepy locals.
That's the thing. It's more your ex is a jackass and less Crazy Ralph.
Yeah,
at least that's how I took it.
Yeah, and it's more like we're stirring the pot of like the husband's going to be a little jealous because this guy knows her. He's known her for longer. He knows her better. That kind of thing.
But no, the point I was driving at, for that first half hour, I was so enjoying Leslie and Treadaway's performances and their chemistry and the things it was kind of bringing up about how a romantic relationship that has just been kind of codified as a permanent thing, right? Like they've just gotten married. Like just interesting ideas about what that does psychologically to the participants. I was sufficiently invested in all this that part of me was like, when this becomes a horror movie, I'm going to be a little bummed out because I'm enjoying the domestic drama so much. And then it turned out that when it became a horror movie, I still liked it. So 3 cheers. I also would like to take this moment to say, you and I going long on Harry Treadaway going long. It's not just us being horny on Maine. The movie's about them being very sexually, like, present for each other. Like they clearly have excellent sexual chemistry, and I think just good life chemistry. I think that we get why they are in love. We get why they got married, but like them kind of not being able to stop from pawing at each other's bodies is like a part of what the movie is. So I think it matters that it's like I'm turned on by the lead actor in a way. Like I'm psychologically on the level this movie needs me to be on.
Yeah, no, I
that is my defense and justification.
No, I do agree though, because what they're showing us in the first act, in addition to the kind of the scratches, the tarnishes, the things that are tarnished about their relationship, or the things that they're about to discover that are not perfect. But we're also learning like what are the pillars of their relationship. One of their pillars is their sexual chemistry. Another pillar is that they're like a very cutesy, schmoopy couple. They're like, I love you, honeybee, buzz. Like, just like that kind of dumb couple bullshit that's very cute when you're doing it and very awkward to watch anybody else do. And things like that. They have really good banter. They're both very funny and charming. But they maybe don't cut to the bone in their conversations. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, and that's the point you were kind of making when you were like, it upset you that they didn't have the conversation about kids. It upset me because it's like, I'm rooting for them. I want these kids to make it, and I don't think they will because I don't think they approach this with their eyes open. And like, that's where I'm at with this movie. Is like, that's a weird response for me to have. These aren't people with lives. They're characters in a script.
No, but I totally relate to that. And also I do relate to, not so much with this movie in terms of my experience, but yeah, I do relate to kind of worrying about how the genre elements are going to turn a story that you're liking on their head if they haven't quite cropped up yet. But there's stuff like when they see her kind of ex-flame potentially abusing his wife, they're not really sure what they saw, but it's not good. He's like really on the wife's side and really worried, and she says something very strange about like, well, his wife clearly did something awful, and it's like, oh, they're not on the same page, like in a way that is a little unsettling. And then obviously one of their big pillars gets taken away because after her scary naked in the woods moment, she consistently refuses to have sex with him, and is trying to like slither her way out of it while also maintaining the kind of horniness that she knows that he expects from her. And once that pillar is gone, everything gets wobbly. Like it's one of the things that's holding up their entire relationship.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I will say, the first moment in this horror film that I actually felt like, obviously when she's naked in the woods, it's like the movie announcing, okay, we have now entered genre. But like that's just a sort of, to me, generically creepy scene. The first scene where I was like, oh, this movie is going to be like working me up and making me very nervous for these characters. He walks in on her in the bathroom. She doesn't hear him come in the house. And she's rehearsing in the mirror how she is going to turn down his sexual advances.
Yeah, she's clearly deciding and figuring out the wording. Like, do I have a headache? Do I have a stomach ache? Is it this pill that I took? That is the exact same scene that I was going to point to if you didn't. That is really eerie. And it's
staged. It's like a POV shot from him, but like you can so clearly see her face in the mirror, and I just kept like waiting for the shoe to drop where she looks at him, and it somehow becomes worse that she just doesn't. Like, she never sees him in this moment.
Yeah, and when she pulls out the line later, and he knows, we know, like, well, something is terribly wrong. And she just keeps batting away those questions. And I really quite liked this second part of the movie too. I think it's very much about the idea that it's just like, no matter how much you're in love, no matter how close you are to someone, you can never completely know what another person is like what's going on inside of them. And that is such a frightening thing. When those I mean, you know, obviously this is a metaphor for a lot of things that can happen in an early on in a marriage, like the idea that there's a side of them that you didn't know that is coming out now that they're in a settled relationship, and also the idea that maybe there's a lot of pregnancy undertones to this movie.
There's a lot of pregnancy undertones to this movie, and then they become pregnancy overtones in a certain way that I'm sure we'll touch on. One of the things that I really liked about this, the subtext I think there's a very rich subtext if you want to read this as a movie from a man's perspective, and if you want to read it from a woman's perspective. I think that there's like a very strong... I think it's just very good at like giving you lots of avenues for how you want to enter into it. Like, Paul is sort of the POV character, so we sort of understand it as like what happens when my wife has just like suddenly gone crazy, am I right, fellas? Like that sort of thing. But then there's a totally valid reading of the film that is what happens when my husband sort of reveals that he's only in it for the sex and that he's not hearing my needs. And he's just kind of badgering and whining. And I think it's just a very subtextually rich film because it like opens itself up to readings as opposed to giving you a like lacquered key to understanding the themes of the movie, which I feel is where way too much horror is these days.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that's consistent in the movie because it doesn't completely give you the codex for understanding really anything that's happening in the movie.
It does not. The closest thing it has to being didactic, it's definitely like wooging in the conversation about pregnancy in a way that feels like they wanted it to be early enough in the film that it would cast a shadow over everything else, so that it does become very specifically, I think, about what happens in a married couple where they have not sufficiently communicated that they don't have the same expectations around a really important load-bearing part of a relationship.
Yeah. And, you know, I wouldn't necessarily argue that this movie is subtle, but it's also not, it's relaxed.
Yes.
It's letting you approach it from whatever angle you want, but it's telling you what, like, the key things that it wants you to know in often quite clever ways. I really liked the opening sequence. So the opening shot of the movie, if I recall correctly, is the cans dragging along on the back bumper of their car,
yes,
like the just married car. And then the opening credits, you get to see some of their wedding video, you get to see them driving. But the final shot as they pull up to the cabin, the cans are all tangled together. They're kind of muddy. They've lost a lot of the cans. And I think that's really instantly setting you up for exactly the arc that this movie is going for.
It does. It's clever. It does feel a little contrived to me because if you're driving from New York to the Canadian woods, like, you don't actually leave the cans on the whole time. You take them off like a couple blocks away from the church. But it works. It's symbolism. It's symbolism. It's good symbolism.
It sure is. But yes, so I kind of can we just talk about the actual like ending third act stuff at this point? I feel like
I think we have to, because the thing is, and I believe this probably got a little more nettlesome for you than it did for me based on our respective Letterboxd reviews. It hits a point pretty quickly after he finds her naked in the woods where it's just him saying, "Hey, what's up, babe?" and her saying, "Nothing. Why would you think anything's up?" And it's that scene for like 50 minutes.
Yeah, I found that to be a bit of a gauntlet by about 30 to 35 minutes in.
I felt that I was buying the performances enough that I didn't mind it, although it does certainly become clear that the movie has a card. But no, so there's in a way not a lot to talk about in the middle. So I think it's fair if we want to leap ahead to the ending for sure.
Okay, yeah. So we're pulling the spoiler veil back completely now. We're talking about the thing as a whole. Yeah, I mean it's aliens. You don't really learn a lot about exactly what they're doing and exactly how they're doing it, but it's aliens, right? You know.
I mean, if if it was just the worm that he pulls out of her vagina, I would not be sure it was aliens, but that plus the lights, it has to be aliens, right?
Yeah, there's kind of there's those shadowy figures that feel very much like the Greys, to me. But the light thing I do want to talk about. So the main thing that kind of compels B to leave the house and go to the woods, as we find out later, is this beam of light that kind of is seeking her out through the window, and it kind of hits her in the face and pulls her outside. Very, very Weapons style. She's just kind of drawn towards it. But I think that beam of light is a really compelling kind of cinematic thing.
Plus low budget filmmaking. They just put a Klieg light through the window and they waved it around, and good God, does it work.
Yes, it works so well.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. It's so crisply defined. Like you can
It's very
see...
X-Files. Like, it's, if you remember the like opening credits of the X-Files where we see just like lightsaber beams coming out of their flashlights, like that's the vibe it had to me.
Oh yeah, and to
really,
that point,
really
like
focused, crisp light.
When it first showed up, I thought it was a flashlight, like someone was peeking in through the window, and I think you're supposed to maybe think that.
Sure.
But it is also eerily smooth in the way that it moves. There's a lot about it that's really, really cool, and I like how much it stands out as this distinct, like it is this beam of light. It's not splashing on anything else. It's not really lighting anything. It is light that exists as an entity unto itself.
It very much feels like the light is... It's not just like a searchlight. It feels like a physical beam, like kind of sweeping across the space. It's very, very cool.
It feels almost like the water tube thing in The Abyss.
It does feel like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it felt like the probe in War of the Worlds, but War of the Worlds is ripping off The Abyss. So there you go.
There you go. So there's that. And also the more we experience the light, the more there's this like really unsettling kind of Geiger counter noise on the soundtrack. Or at least I hope so. Otherwise, maybe my TV is breaking. But I really thought all of that I found it all to be very aesthetically pleasing, but also very overwhelming and kind of unsettling in a really cool way.
Yeah, no, this movie absolutely, I wouldn't say it's scary. Like I finished the movie, I turned off the lights, I went to bed in my house. It was fine. So I wasn't like scared of the dark or anything like that. But this movie really got me worked up. Like I was very nervous during this movie. I was very uncomfortable for the characters, wondering what's looking at them, can they see it, what's going on with like who's seeing what. And I think you're exactly right. Like it does a lot of things that really felt very unsettling, effectively so.
Yeah, and I do think that's the mode it is trying for. It's not like a roller coaster thrill ride scary movie.
No,
like honestly, the scene that inspired the most horror in me is where they sit down on the carpet to play a board game, and the carpet has this hideous stain on it. And I'm like, no, you gotta sit at the table. What is wrong with you?
Speaking of things that just like subtly made me feel very on edge, I don't know what game they were playing, and we can't see their like hands or the dice they're rolling.
Oh,
and I just found that really upsetting. That is like, what are you talking about? What are these vocab words you're using? It's a dice game, and I don't know what dice game it is. And just that made me feel like I didn't have a toehold. And it's such a stupid, tiny thing to have it about, but I just know the movie worked for me on that level.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tiny things. Like I like that. So the cottage is built tilted, like it is ever so slightly canted, which is kind of neat. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's maybe a bit thin on material, but it's got great vibes. It's really well constructed. It's got really cool vibes. I liked it.
No, I liked it too. I had a really good time with it. I brought up the scene that is clearly where they spent about 98% of their effects budget. What did you feel about her having a 3-foot-long worm? Incubating in her.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty obvious by that point that she was impregnated by an alien in some way, and like it's kind of body snatchery. Like there's entities, personalities inside her head. She has joined a collective somehow, basically. And so I think that was just kind of the culmination of that, where you're like, oh, yep, something terrible happened. I thought it was well executed. I thought the effects were really great for this kind of low-budget movie.
I think the effects were very impressive for the budget. It felt a little over-egged to me. It was like, I don't know that I needed actual, like, vaginal horror.
Yeah, I think you are probably right, especially because the scariest...
I definitely didn't need the worm to twitch after it's been moved out of her body. That was over-egging it to me.
That's probably true. I don't recall being bothered by it necessarily, but I'm inclined to agree with you, especially because the scariest part of that scene, so he has her tied up at this point before he starts extracting the worm, where she finally lowers the facade of, I am your wife, what's wrong with you, why are you being crazy, where he's like, my wife would cry. She's a crier. You're not crying. And she just kind of really flatly is like, if I cry, will you let me go? And I'm like, oh, she's not in there.
That was really good. That was really good.
So it's like, yeah, they didn't need to juice it with anything.
Because there's also, he has a really good line. I think it's in the same scene. You look like her, but you're not her.
Yeah. And when he's doing the whole kind of Little Red Riding Hood thing almost, where he's like, you smell like her. Taste like her.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess you're right. Like, if it could have understood that they were the load-bearing thing that the movie has, and they didn't need any extra help.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like it ruined the movie by any means. I just don't think the movie needed it. I do think the movie needs the other makeup effect, which is that over the course of the last half hour, she looks worse in basically every scene.
Oh,
culminating in her just looking like a fucking scab in the last scene of the movie. Like her eyes are calloused over somehow.
Oh yeah, no, that is a different thing. That is important. That propels it. Sorry, and anything else about this part? Because I really want to bring up something that's totally a tangent.
I don't think I have anything else about this part, and if I do, we can always swing back and grab it.
That is true. Yeah, just one other like kind of subtle thing that I really liked is that at a certain point I was like, I'm only seeing these people make breakfast. I'm not seeing them eat anything else. But there's a line early on that's talking about how like, it's a very like kind of dumb early on in a marriage line. It's a little over optimistic, but it's like, well, we're going to be having breakfast together every day for the rest of our lives. You know, we have time to talk about this or blah, blah, blah. And I like the idea that it has completely isolated their eating to breakfast, and we do see every remaining breakfast through the end of their lives.
We actually, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Thank you.
I do like the evolution of the breakfasts. I like that it culminates in him very pointedly frying an egg, which is like an egg, first off, not two eggs. So he is making himself a fried egg, and there's just something like he's been like fussing over pancakes. And now he's making just like a simple, I don't give a shit type of breakfast. And I think that's a nice little evolution that he goes from like trying to make her fancy little breakfasts to just eating a fucking fried egg.
Oh yeah, and if we're cooking up an egg, that's kind of what's going on inside of her too.
I was just gonna say egg is metaphor in every movie that it appears.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of just little details like that I think are really satisfying to kind of pluck at. And because the movie doesn't really explicitly decide on a lot of things, it lets you kind of dig in and sink in and just wiggle around a little bit. And I think it's mostly worthwhile for that.
No, I think it is too. Again, it is a movie that is definitely in some capacity about how poor communications between a married couple lead to disaster, but you can read within that in a lot of different ways, in terms of who's culpable, in terms of what culpability means in this context. Like, I think it's a very I think I used the word generous in my Letterboxd review. It's just a very generous movie in that it lets us find our emotional path in. And, I will say possibly part of the reason I'm responding to it so strongly. I mean, you just got married. So you are in these people's position. I think this is a fair thing to say on the podcast. I am in a position where by the end of the summer, I may be on a path financially to buying a house with my partner. I don't want to go into details until there are details to go into. I may basically be going from my job pays enough for me to not die of starvation to my job will pay enough for me to save, which will be a very cool new place for me to be in my life. But so I'm starting mentally to think about like sharing a house with somebody, and like that breakfast line actually did kind of tug at me a little bit, because it was like, I will be that person sooner rather than later. And like that was my way into this movie. And I think I like a movie that like gives you paths and doesn't tell you which one to pick.
Yeah, and there's something that's very nice about it is how adult this movie is. It is mature. It's not just like, I mean, I love teenagers in the woods getting fucked up and killed, but it is doing something else. And it is something that it is a movie that I don't think I would have liked that much in 2014 when I was in college and not at that point in my life where I could really understand anything about where these characters were coming from.
Sure. I think what's interesting is the movie is like very much more mature than the characters within it.
Ooh, yes. And I think it expects the audience to be too, to a certain degree.
Because the thing that really struck me, as the film progresses, and Paul just keeps having his, and this is why I don't think it bothered me so much, that he only really ever just is like, what's going on? Why won't you tell me what's going on? Mm-hmm. He doesn't really take steps. It is at a certain point clear she needs to at least see a doctor because her thighs are fucked up. And he doesn't like suggest, maybe we should go to the nearest town. Maybe I should go to a pharmacy. He just kind of gets latched into this place of like, I have one strategy and I'm going to employ it because I'm not really very smart. And I'm not the sort of person who has like extensive adult experience with problem solving. And that, I mean, I don't know that the movie needs to have that many repetitions of that scene to make that point, but it did feel to me like the point was less lack of writerly imagination and more that Paul is himself not a very clever person.
That's a really interesting point. And now I'm thinking about, because going into a marriage, especially one that's as kind of naively optimistic about their future as they are, without having thought through any of the kind of pragmatic elements of their marriage.
It's very clearly, there's a definite subtext of neither one of these people has thought about what will happen when they need to like take care of a problem without the other one supporting them.
These people have not put their last will and testaments together.
These people do not think about what happens if the water heater goes out.
Yes. But I think he's in that part of his life where his expectation is like, anything for my princess. If my wife wants it, like, I'll do what she wants. I love her so much. And what do you do if she's not doing the thing that is
if she's not following the script?
Yeah, she's not following the script. The things that she's doing are actively harmful to herself. You can't just go, anything for my princess. And he's not navigating very well out of that trap.
Yeah, I think he's basically short-circuiting, and that's why the movie feels like it's repetitive, because he's just his brain fried a little bit. And then it gets real fried towards the end. Like in the last scene, he's just completely like catatonic.
Oh,
the second to last scene, I guess. In the last scene, he's no longer a factor in the script. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're about to wrap up, but I do think that, so it feels very much like you like this movie more than me, although I've really come to appreciate it even more while talking about it.
Well, we're both at 3.5 stars.
That's what I was going to bring up.
I already feel like I'm a 3.5 stars leaning 4, and you're a 3.5 stars leaning 3. Plus 3.5 stars for me in a horror film already connotes more enthusiasm than it does for you, I think.
I think you were right. But you had mentioned that you were thinking about you were leaning towards 4, but potentially not because of its kind of rewatchability factor. Is
I
that right?
do not know if I have faith that this movie will rewatch. Well, that is exactly it.
Yeah, that I have the same concerns. It might be okay because of that malleability of what it's doing, but it might be a one and done. But
I like the characters. I like spending time with them, but there's definitely a lot of the where is this going will not be present, and I do wonder if that's going to just completely bring down the middle act for me.
Yes, that tension, like there's not that second pole holding the tension. Yeah, I was worried about the same thing because I was watching this on my own, and I was like, "Ooh, I do think my husband Ben will like this movie." It's kind of the type of movie that he likes, and I was like, "Well, shoot, should I watch it with him soon?" And I was like, "I don't think I want to."
This feels like
Yeah.
I have a buddy that I do a horror movie marathon with every October, and this feels like a really good candidate for one of our marathons. And I had kind of the same feeling of like, I don't know if I want to rewatch this film.
Yeah, and that
I
doesn't.
think the best case scenario is I will like it as much. I think there is no chance I will like it more.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right. And a movie doesn't have to be rewatchable to be a good movie, but that is kind of a ding on it. Like you do want to keep going back to the really good ones that you.
That's the thing. That's kind of the thing. Is like, it's not a. It's you're right. Like it does not have to be that to be good, but I certainly feel more kindly towards it if it's like I'm going to rewatch this movie tomorrow. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean that's right now my favorite. I was gonna say favorite horror movie of the year. Might be my favorite movie of the year because it hasn't been a great year. Is the new Faces of Death movie?
All right.
And part of that is because I watched it and I was like, holy shit, Ben's gonna love this movie. So I took him to it like 2 days later, watched it again, liked it again, and when that happens, that does reinforce it. And that's how a movie becomes your favorite, or at least in my experience.
No, it would feel very weird to me to have as one of my favorite movies a movie that I don't wish to rewatch.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I think you're right. Because there are those movies where you're like, wow, that was a masterpiece. I'll never watch it again. I know a lot of people, I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of people have had that experience with, say, Showa. But also, whose favorite
It's funny you bring that up.
movie is Showa?
I've been thinking for like a couple of years, I really need to rewatch Showa.
Sure. You know, that's what you need to do in your life, and that's
But
fine.
yeah, but no, if someone walked up to me and said, my favorite movie is Showa, not the movie that I think is the best movie, my favorite, I'd be like, I don't want to turn my back to you. I don't necessarily want to be in the same room with you at all.
Yeah. So there is a difference. Yeah, that split between best and favorite is where the rewatchability factor slots in.
Maybe. But no, so we'll see. If I do rewatch this movie and I'm like, holy shit, that was just as good, this feels like a prime candidate for my second viewing to be a 4-star experience, if it holds up.
Yeah, if that happens, I very much look forward to hearing your thoughts on a second watch.
And I can't even say I really want to see more from this director because I have, and it sucked. So
yeah, but it was also
one-off
like,
success, but quite a success. We're very glad she got this one in the books.
Yeah, and you know, Netflix is an anchor around many a good filmmaker's neck.
Very true.
You know, you need at least 2 movies to prove yourself as a good filmmaker, but it's a great debut.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she has anything upcoming. I think she doesn't seem to have done anything since 2022, which is kind of a bummer.
That's kind of distressing to me because it feels. Oh, she had a she was contributed to a mini series after Fear Street.
Yeah, but that was
okay.
Yeah, she directed 2 episodes. Maybe she did other stuff.
Yeah, but that's all I'm seeing. Which it feels like Fear Street had a lot of like splashiness to it. I would have assumed that she would have at least gotten like another shitty Netflix horror job.
Yeah, like she executive produced the 4th Fear Street movie, which is awful.
Oh God, I forgot about that. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it is not worth your time.
Haven't and frankly won't.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we're winding down. I think we should quit while we're ahead here. But thank you so much everybody for listening. That's the end of our Newlywed Horror. That's what I called it.
That was what we called it.
Yeah, that's the end of our Newlywed Horror unit. If you are a member of the Alternate Ending Patreon, keep an eye out for a new poll to vote for what we will be talking about in July. You can also find other great things on our Patreon. We just did a trivia game. Super duper fun. I love hosting that. We'll do another one again probably in a couple months. But yeah, and you can find other episodes of this show and others on alternatending.com. Wait, Tim, do you know what's going to be next week on the podcast? Because that's the kind of extra...
We are sort of recording... Oh, no, I haven't picked anything yet.
Okay.
I will. It'll be something. It'll be fun.
Yeah, see you next week for something fun. And that will be followed by what I also will hope will be fun, but the July preview, like the normal kind of end of the month episode. But yeah, happy honeymoon, everyone. Bye.
She hates me.